Hello and welcome back to another layout update from Bearwood West Yard. This one's going to be slightly shorter than the normal layout updates as I've done in the past, and this is mainly because I've had a lot of non-layout related things going on, such as moving house, so I haven't been up to much, but what I have been up to is worth making a video for. So I'm going to hand over to myself now at the new house, so I'll join you there.
So to start everything off, I've got a new fold-up desk as my workbench. So currently on here I've got 3 Dapol JNAs, which I previously weathered about a year ago to a not great effect. So I'm currently doing some rework on these, and I'm going to be going over the rest of the JNA fleet as well to make sure that they're all spick and span. But yeah, so it's quite a nice size of about 1 metre, so I've got plenty of space for a laptop and all of the various paints that I may need, which all of those on here at the moment, if they're not Rail Match or Humbrol, are from a painting by numbers set. I've also found space for the blade storage unit that I made, so I think I may have shown this before, but I've got space for a load of the number 11 and number 12 blades that I've made, along with a bin for the spent blades. I've also spent a little bit of money as well and gone and bought myself a set of paint pens off of Amazon. That was about 30 quid, I think it was, or so, but they've come to great effect when modelling graffiti, as there's only so much you can do with a fine brush. So I'm quite pleased with how that came out, and that graffiti is actually prototypical of an MFA that I found online. I've also managed to bring along some of the Hobby Zone modular units, complete with all of the trays of things that I'll need. However, the only downside is that the height, it just fouls the top by about 3mm, so I'm going to need to mill down the top of the top and the bottom of one of the units, which hopefully shouldn't affect it structurally, but either way, that will hopefully in the near future be on top of each other like they're designed to do. And one step down from there, we've got the spray shop. So I've got my spray booth and my brand new Awata Neo in its box there, along with all of the kit that I need to do some airbrushing. So yeah, I've also got a mask as well, which I recently bought. That set me back about £60, but it's well worth it because you'd spend that money and more in disposables as well. So, and I got that from Screwfix. You'd have to buy the mask and all the filters completely separately, but it's well worth having the filters and the additional particulate filters too. So moving on to the stock side of things, I've been doing a bit of progress on the JZA manipulator wagon. So for those who aren't followers of the channel or subscribers, I am building a 00 gauge welded rail train. So the one I'm building is the updated 1990s to 2000s version made by Cowan Sheldon. And this is the gantry crane wagon which pulls the rails out of the stabling wagons. So I've been working mostly on the gantry part. So in August I was making the crane arms, which do extend if I pull them, but they are a bit of an interference fit, so they take a bit of pulling, but they do pull out. So either way, that's all painted up now, and I am currently prototyping the roof. It's by far no means complete yet, and I still need to get the positioning right for the end rubbers that extend out from the back. Either way, taking the roof off, I have included various details. So the meshing on the walkway part, that's all down, super glued in, and the meshing on the railings on both sides is all in too. You can also probably see through the window there's a slight tint of orange, and yes, there is someone in there, just like there is in the YEA behind it. I still need to get the guard at the rear, just in front of the counterweight done, but again, that is currently a work in progress. Now, for those who haven't seen on Facebook, the crane arms do extend, but they take a bit of pulling, and they do swivel as well. So it's quite a handy design feature. Do take it out. It's literally just a pin that I've turned on my lathe. I'll give a close up so you can see it just slots in there, and so you can get the radial movement on it. I thought it'd be quite a nifty feature really, because although when it's moving on the layout it won't be able to be moved, when it's on static display it should hopefully be quite a nice point to think, oh wow, it's got another feature on it. So it was more of a build challenge than anything. All of the rollers have been painted, and all of the deployment wheels, those were all turned, and the notch in the middle of it was also parted by hand on my little lathe. So these are made out of aluminium, and though I don't have them on here yet, on this part here there are some hydraulic rams that need to go in, along with on here as well. Those hydraulic rams, which you can just about see, those are made from brass, and they were very, very awkward to turn, but I turned them nonetheless. I just need to fit these ones now. I also have some new additions as well to the layout. So this being an MTA and 2 Bachmann MFAs as well. So these pretty much complete the MHA spoil set, although I am going to get some of the Akura scale MHAs as well, as these depict the MHAs that have got fewer number of ribs along the side, so it'll give a nice variation in the spoil set, along with the MFAs and the MTA at the back. With all that said, let's hand over back to myself on the layout. So you join me back on the layout now. So in the past few months, as I last uploaded, I think it was around July and August time, I have completed the wiring of the signalling. So that is now all done and is controlled by a DC panel. I'm using a Gauge Master power supply for this, as it is all 12 volts DC. Now for the wiring, I've gone for just some standard wire that I had in stock. I believe this was the kind of thickness of it, so I think it's something like 0.3 of a millimeter stranded, I think it is. But all of the components that make up the signalling system were all obtained from Rapid Electronics, and the signals are from TrainTech. I kind of got a bit bored of just having static signals, and I thought it was about time that I got them all wired up. For the panel itself, it's literally as you see it. It's just some plywood. It's a plywood box essentially that had the layout design drawn up on paint, printed out onto sticky back paper. That was then glued down, and
I then placed some sticky back plastic onto the top of it just to give it a kind of nice laminated seal to prevent it from being damaged. I then drilled through that and pushed through the toggle switches. The way that I have all of the signals wired is a bit different compared to how TrainTech recommend. So normally people will use like rotary switches for these, but what I do is I have a system where it's either on red, or if it's pushed up, the power is then supplied to the next toggle switch. So essentially the output for that throw goes to the power in on that toggle switch, and then I can go from amber to green, and then I can even override the green straight back to red, or if I want to I can then push it so that I go straight from red to green and skipping the amber. So, and then on the feather, this is completely separate of the main aspects, so I can have independent feather control. The layout is quite messy at the moment, but that's only because I spend approximately 2 to 3 hours a week here. It's not a lot, and to be honest, I'm quite lucky that I'm actually making a video at the moment, because I spend so little time over here that not much gets done. But either way, continuing on from the signalling, that kind of inspired me to get the rest of the layout lighting done. So from that I thought, right, okay, I'm going to go and get the station and the yard lit. So for that I went to Gauge Master and I bought a load of their platform adjustable height lamps, and I'm yet to wire these all in, but from what I've seen they're supposed to look really good, and there's quite good value for money as well. So I'm hoping that once it's all wired up it will look quite nice, although that'll probably be in about 6 months time at the rate that I'm going at. And then for the yard lighting I opted for the set, I think they're supposed to be stadium or car park floodlights, and they're part of the Gauge Master Ford Hampton range. So I've got 5 of these to dot all around, and with them going in I thought, right, I need to make the yard look somewhat presentable. So I ripped up all of the grey board hard standing, which to be honest was coming up anyway, as it was just all lifting and wasn't very nice. So I've decided to do a proper hard standing with a load of ready mixed filler, and that's all dried. I'm just awaiting to take away all of the surrounding plastic sheet that I stuck down initially so that the filler didn't overflow and go anywhere I didn't want it. There has been some overspill, as you can see behind that ECC CDA, where some filler did get into the forefoot, but that will be cleaned up in due course. Either way, this will all be quite nice. I just need to sand it all back and then score it for the relevant look of a concrete hard standing area in panels, and then I need to paint it as well. But I've also had some airbrush issues as well, so the workbench hasn't had a lot done to it. I started this bridge, actually, that's probably a good talking point. So although I won't be really showing much, the bridge that I have planned, or had planned, for the western end of the layout that goes just over here, initially I started on that at Christmas last year and I was building it brick by brick. Yes, it was quite painful and there wasn't much hope for it. I got to about New Year and I think half of one side was complete, and I got to the point where I just got burnt out from it, and it was just sat there not looking great. Going through quite a few videos, and I would look back on the videos and I would think, I really need to do something about that. So I did, and I rebuilt a grey board structure So this was made from 2mm grey board, which you can buy very cheaply on Amazon for, I think it's like £10 for a pack of 50. And grey board is really good material for making buildings out of, as it provides a really solid structure, but it's easy enough to score several times and cut with a scalpel. So it's really good, really cheap, and if you make a mistake, then it's not going to cost you the earth. But yeah, and then I made that grey board structure to the exact same specifications as the previous bridge that I was sticking all of the bricks on individually to, except I've gone and clad this all in Slater's plasticard in one of the embossed brick kind of patterns. So this bridge essentially at the moment needs to undergo the airbrush. I've got some light and dark brick paints ready to go, but unfortunately my airbrush failed when I tried to do it, hence the red smudge on the half brick arch. So yeah, that resulted in a new airbrush being required, as the parts that I needed, I was actually quoted as cheaper to buy a new one than to buy the spares. So yeah, and then it's a case of waiting for the good weather to come along before I make any more progress on this. But I'm not going to set myself any time scales, because the railway has been on the back foot for the moment, especially with my college work ramping up as well. So that at the moment is on the back foot, but I hope to have another video out possibly around February, as I'm hoping that I can get some work done to the layout and to any other scratch built projects around the Christmas holidays, if I'm not bogged down with college work. But yeah, and I don't think I mentioned it, but the bridge in front of us isn't actually of London and South Western design like I'd initially planned, but it's actually based off of the Somerset and Dorset example at Charlton Marshall Holt, which is about 12 miles from here, and surprisingly it's still standing and in quite good condition. So it was a close enough and good enough structure to try and base a bridge off of, and it will look quite good hopefully once it's done. Setting that ramble aside, I've also gone and bought a 3D printer. So on my 21st birthday, I went out and bought an Elegoo Saturn 3D printer. As for the price, I thought, well, why buy a Mars when I can get a Saturn that has got a slightly larger print area on the bed? So I'm still teething with that in what spare time I have, as I've got plenty of CADs to 3D print, and I'm also using the Osprey stanchions, which you can see in front of you now. I'm actually using the CADs that I have for those, as those are my design. I'm using those to use as test prints. So far it's not going too well, but I am toying with it as and when I can. But you never know, that I may even get round to 3D printing some of my welded rail train components. So you never know, I might one day be able to make some of these available for sale, but no promises on that, because will be a long shot. Now moving on to new additions to the layout, back in the summer I bought secondhand some of these EWS BZA wagons to carry the coils. Now I thought these would look pretty good, and boy, I'm not disappointed. They break up the BRAs and BYAs quite nicely, and I'm pretty pleased with them, I won't lie. It looks quite nice, gives the train a little bit of extra length, and also gives it a bit of variation. The other new additions that I've added to the layout have come in literally the last 2 weeks, and have been added to my barrier wagon train set. Now, at the moment, this is being used to translate my CMX track cleaner, but going along with the Heldren barrier wagons that were released last year, I've got the barrier wagon brake force running wagons, which essentially are just the main frame of a cargo wagon, which has a load of concrete panels on them, and that's to give them a bit of weight. And essentially these make the locomotive hauling the train have a bit more force behind it, so that the braking is a bit better, or something along the lines of that. I'm led to believe anyway. But regardless of the application, I thought these would look quite authentic behind it, as I'm using my barrier wagons to have my CMX track cleaner, as I have no locomotives that are fitted with KDs, and it's not possible to fit NEMs to CMX. So it looks right in that sense, that barrier wagons are being used as barrier wagons. And I think that's pretty much a wrap now, in terms of layout progress and things that I'm up to and that. So I'm going to call it an end there. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I do not know when I'm next going to post or what it will be, whether it's a trains running or a layout update. I can imagine it will probably be another layout update, because I am having some technical issues with my DCS 51 controller, so no doubt I'm going to have to have a little bit of a sort out with regards to that. But either way, I'll hopefully see you in the not too distant future, and you can follow my progress on Facebook and Instagram using the Bearwood West Yard social media tools. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video and seeing what's going on at the minute and what I've been up to. Thanks for being patient with me, as I'm really not the most frequent of uploaders. But yeah, so thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video, whenever that may be.